Among the people campaigning for a higher minimum wage are some 1,500 aviation service workers at Logan Airport. To tell us about their campaign for a minimum wage of $15 an hour is our guest, the Vice President for the New England District of 32BJ SEIU, Roxana Rivera. Thank you very much for being with us, Roxana.
Thank you for having us.
For people who are not too familiar with the work and the workers, they might suppose that, well, these are low-wage jobs, so why give them $15 an hour? But talk about how things stand now compared to what it was like before these jobs were outsourced.
Yeah, so there's 1,500 workers that actually do, they clean planes, they are baggage handlers, they are wheelchair attendants throughout the airport, and they are outsourced by the major airlines. And these workers were once workers that worked directly for Delta or American Airlines. And to cut costs, these airlines began to outsource these jobs. And so basically now, whereas they were livable wages with benefits, they are no longer those. They're now minimum wage jobs, and there's a high turnover of employees because of those conditions. So you have workers that are less trained, because they're, why train someone when they're not going to be there the next day? And so there's no incentive for them, for the companies to really have quality professional workers. And so those are the standards that have gone down because of that outsourcing. And so we're asking that, quality be put back into these jobs, and that we have to lift the wages. I mean, right now we have workers that do this work at the airport that are, find themselves even homeless, living in shelters. And so there's a point where we, here in Boston, need to say, we can do better for the communities around the airport. So I think for us, it's important that both we can do something for the workers, but also up the standards at the airport for everybody's security and safety.
We've had segments before where workers made it clear that these jobs are difficult, sometimes dangerous, or at least hazardous. But what about the importance of having a more stable workforce? Does it really make that much difference in the quality of the work?
It definitely does, especially at a place like the airport, because everybody has to be the eyes and ears, and workers, find things that are suspicious, and they have to be reporting those things. Workers on the planes have actually found things that are dangerous, and so they've had to report those things. And so we want to make sure that everybody that uses the airport are traveling under the safest conditions, and we think that the airlines have a role in that, ensuring that happens, because it's up to them to subcontract out to these contractors, and so they have to be the ones assuring that those contractors are doing their job and are able to have enough sufficient resources to have a trained staff.
I know one goal right now is to have legislation approved that would raise the minimum over a period of 2 years. I imagine somewhere along the line there's going to be somebody objecting and saying, well, who's going to pay for that? I mean, isn't it ultimately going to be airline passengers maybe?
So the airlines won't improve standards unless the folks that use that airport ask to improve those standards. And so that, again, we want to make sure that all travelers have the safest flight, and we believe it's up to the airlines to ensure that. And again, they provide more security at other airports where they land. Those workers actually, like at San Francisco Airport or Los Angeles Airport, they have more quality contractors doing that work. And we believe they could do that here, but again, it has to be a demand of those that frequent the airport. And so that's why we put forth legislation to basically ensure that we have those standards here at Logan Airport.
Talk about what workers have done to drive the point home, because they haven't just been quietly and politely asking for a raise. They've had to fight for this.
Yes, workers have gone on strike already 4 times, and again to raise the issue about the poor working conditions that again everybody needs to hear, right? And mostly the travelers too, because again these are the folks that are saying like, listen, what I'm doing is unsafe. We do not have trained personnel, and so they're really bringing the issue up, and now it's upon us to listen. And right now we're hoping that the state legislator will listen and really make a move to pass the legislation for these workers to be able to get to $15 over the next couple of years. It won't happen all at once, but over the next couple of years, so that we can begin to raise the standards for these workers, for the quality service at the airport. And we believe that the airlines can afford it.
You're talking about going up to 15 from $11 an hour. How much of a difference is that for the workers themselves?
So right now, even with workers making $11, literally many times they don't have enough food. They can't pay the rent at the end of the month. So $15 provides for the basic necessities, and so it allows people to have food on the table, allows them to make rent at the end of the month. Not much more than that, but the workers are asking that a hard day's work allow them to meet their basic needs.
Speaking of basic needs, they also have to live someplace and get to work. At one time it would have been a lot easier to live in East Boston, but how does that change things?
So many of the workers actually still do live in Boston, but have had to move out to different places outside of East Boston because the rent's doubled in many areas of East Boston due to the changes. So it is difficult for folks to live in East Boston, but there's still communities here in East Boston that work at the airport as well.
So where does the campaign go from here?
So on Thursday, we're going to be having a big march and rally at the State House. We'll be highlighting two of the $15 bills. One is around the airport workers that we've been discussing. The other is for fast food workers. And again, we think these two industries, the fast food, global corporations, as well as the airlines, are two places where they can afford to increase the pay to $15 again over the next couple of years, not from one year to the next, but we believe that that's something that's doable, and so we're hoping that the State House will make some type of announcement on Thursday as far as where these two bills stand.
Thank you very much for being with us. Roxana Rivera from 32BJ SEIU.